much for joining. I'm going to present on Nearpod, so I am going to share that link in the chat. I will also share my screen. And if you are unable to access the chat, you can see the code on that screen. Nearpod just makes things so much fun. Also, if you're not able to join the Nearpod lesson to use the interactive features, that's a-okay. I'll be sharing my screen the whole time so you won't miss out on any of the features. So I'll put that in the chat just one more time. And I will also share my screen. So you can see where it says code at the top if you want to go to nearpod.com and just join that way. Well, welcome. Thank you so much. It means a lot that you're taking the time at the end of your very busy days to come here and talk about this topic of how we as instructors can talk less and smile more. This means that you're interested in hearing students' voices who have been masked and muted for a long time through this pandemic. And I hope that this time together will really be a meditation for you to bring in your own thinking and your own ideas around student talk and student voice. And I have a lot that I hope to share with you today. I want to dedicate our time to you and to thank you, teachers, from all of the families of your students who may not have the words to say thank you, but please know that in their hearts they are feeling thanks to you for all that you do for children during this difficult time that our nation is facing. So a little song to start off our time together just for you. And before I go to this song, I will let you know that as you're joining Nearpod, that's awesome. And if not, the code is here. I will not be doing much with the chat. So if there's some technical issue, please unmute and let me know. And we'll have some time during this session together to interact and for you also to be heard as well. So, and lots of songs, because you know, this is Talk Less, Smile More. So we have to have some Hamilton in here, right? All right.
You're the engine that makes all things go, and you're always in disguise, my hero. I see your light in the dark, smile on my face when we all know it's hard. There's no way to ever pay you back. Bless your heart, know I love you for that. Honest and selfless, I don't know if this helps it, but good job, you're doing a good job, a good job. You're doing a good job, don't get too down. The world needs you now. Know that you matter, yeah. You're doing a good job, a good job. You're doing a good job, don't get too down. The world needs you now. Know that you matter, yeah.
So if no one has told you today that you're doing a good job and you matter, let me be the first to say it. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. If you are on Nearpod, go ahead and draw for us how you're feeling today. You can draw your face right in the center, or you can circle one of these faces, or you can turn your camera on and show me your face and how you're doing today. I hope that you're doing well, and it's okay if you're not. See if we can see any of our friends here, some of their faces. Oh, there's Colleen. Oh, I love seeing your faces. Thank you so much for turning your camera on. All right, I see a happy face. Take a breath. Roll your shoulders back. All right, well, I have to say before we begin that if I could send you all on a wonderful beach vacation, I would. And I think that we will. What do you say? Let's do a little 1-minute beach vacation. All right. So here you are. You made it. Whew, it was a quick flight. Wiggle your toes in the sand. Look around. You're on the beach. Listen to the sound of the waves. Take a breath. Relax. Go snorkeling real quick. See if you can find that sea turtle. Oh, there it is. Take a look around if you're on Nearpod. And finally, the sun is setting. We're back on the beach, enjoying the beautiful sunset together. All right. Well done. I hope you enjoyed your 1-minute beach vacation. The next set of slides are kind of all about me. I'm an instructional coach for the Multilingual Services Department here in the heart of the prairie in Champaign, Illinois. I'm a graduate of Naperville North High School, if we have any Huskies in the house. I taught in Bensonville, in Cochabamba, Bolivia, and I taught here in Champaign for quite a while. You can look through here and see this is my family. I have 2 little boys who are elementary age, so I had the joy of sitting next to them and Zooming with them this past year. I have a sweet little puppy. This is me when I was a little girl on swim team. I still love swimming today. Here's my favorite food, sometimes controversial, crab legs. I love to travel and have adventures, playing with my boys. I like cooking and baking, celebrating Thanksgiving, and I make this slideshow to share with students when I first meet them so they can get to know me a little bit. And I like to make some simple sentences and show some pictures to let them get to know me before I get to know them. And I've been teaching for what seems like a long time and coaching for about 8 years. And this past year during the pandemic, I stretched myself a little bit and I was able to guest author with Larry Ferlazzo on one of his Ed Week articles, and it was the do's and don'ts of remote learning. So this is pretty exciting. I've been quoted in Ed Week. Can check that off my list. Are you ready to see this really inspirational quote that they pulled from my hard work and thoughts? Here it is. Don't talk so much, teachers. That's my quote. Maybe not the quote I would have chosen, maybe something a little more positive, but that's my quote. So I promise I will share more wisdom with you than just this, than just not talking so much. I thought that was pretty funny when I saw that. So there are 3 things I want you to think about in this presentation. The first is from Aaron Burr, talk less, smile more. The second are from the Schuyler sisters, work, work, I'm looking for a mind at work. And then back to Burr for wait for it. So let's jump in. Talk less, smile more. As teachers, we need to really think about linguistic outcomes. And we're going to watch a little bit of this song because, of course, we have to check out Hamilton here. And what I want you to think about as you're enjoying the music is what Hamilton is really anticipating will be an outcome of his conversation with Aaron Burr. Hamilton has a pretty clear idea of how he's going to impress Burr and what Burr might say to him. And I think he's a little bit surprised there afterwards.
1776. New York City. Pardon me, are you Aaron Burr, sir?
That depends. Who's asking?
Oh, sure. Sir, I'm Alexander Hamilton. I'm at your service, sir. I have been looking for you.
I'm getting nervous.
Sir, I heard your name at Princeton. I was seeking an accelerated course of study. When I got sort of out of sorts with a buddy of yours, I may have punched him. It's a blur. Sir, he handles the financials.
You punched the bursar.
Yes, I wanted to do what you did, graduate into and join the revolution. He looked at me like I was stupid. I'm not stupid. So how'd you do it? How'd you graduate so fast?
It was my parents' dying wish before they passed.
You're an orphan. Of course, I'm an orphan. God, I wish there was a war, then we could prove that we're worth more than anyone bargained for.
Can I buy you a drink?
That would be nice.
While we're talking, let me offer you some free advice. Talk less.
What?
Smile more. Don't let them know what you're against or what you're for.
Okay, so Hamilton was real surprised by Burr's comment, as you can see. Hamilton has no problem talking, does he? He certainly has a lot to say. And this really applies to us as language teachers because just like Hamilton, we need to really think about the linguistic outcomes that we're expecting from students. If we're asking them to talk, we want to make sure that we're framing that conversation that really gives them a chance to show us what they can do. So I want to tell you a little story. I was coaching with a student, a teacher who had a multilingual student, and she expressed some concern about this student in literacy, and the student wasn't really connecting oral language with literacy. And her thought was that by engaging in some oral language work together, and then could transfer that to some literacy work. And so I came in and I said, that's a great hypothesis that we can work on this student's oral language to transfer that to some literacy skills. So I thought we'd play a little game and do some data collection. And that's just what we did. So this is the data collection sheet that we came up with together. So she knew I was taking some data on her interaction with this student. And what I was doing is making some tally marks here in the teacher prompt section to see what she was saying, and then recording what the student was saying at some different linguistic levels. Were his responses single word? Were they phrases? Were they simple sentences? Did we have expanded or complex sentences? And this is what happened. She was reading a book and looked at the picture and said, oh, the boy's playing at the park. Do you play at the park? And the student said, yes. So I had to put the tally mark in single word. So then the teacher's thinking a little bit more. And she said, oh, look, he's on a slide. Is there a slide at your park? And the student said, yes. So again, single word response. So the teacher's starting to think now and watching me make these tally marks. And she said, what do you do at your park? And the student said, play. So it became very clear to the teacher that what she had planned in reading this book by kind of offering these closed-end questions had really elicited some one-word responses from the student, where in fact, she really wanted the student to use simple and more expanded and more complex sentences, but because of the functional way she was questioning, the student wasn't really able to show what they could do. So I always love to look at WIDA performance definitions. They're very helpful in thinking about what a student can do instructionally on Access or on your own measures using the WIDA rubrics, and then looking one level up. So if their independent level is a level 2, our instruction should be eliciting responses that help students to level up. So if they're at single words, we really want to see if we can elicit sentences. If they're using very simple vocabulary, very general vocabulary, we want them to elicit more technical or specific vocabulary as well. So thinking about, are we creating an environment that helps students to level up linguistically when they're speaking. I like to keep language goals in front of me. If I had a small group of students who had a similar language goal, so for example, these students are moving up towards a level 3, I would keep all of those language performance definitions right in front of me. I want expanded sentences from these students. So are they able to produce expanded sentences in my time with them? I'm looking for some repetitive grammatical structures or multiple related ideas. So again, not at the one word level, but how can I push them to level up? Here are a few other games. We call them games because that's more fun when you say that instead of data collection, that you can play with yourself or you can play with a colleague. This is the tally sheet that you can take tally marks of what kinds of responses your students are giving based on your questions. And then perhaps don't give yourself a tally mark unless that's an open-ended question. This is another fun one, which is just teachers versus students. How many times is the teacher talking and how many times are the students talking? And that really gives you some information about who's doing a lot of the work there in your lessons. Another example is just to sort of check yourself. How many open-ended questions are you asking and how many closed-ended questions are you asking? Helps you to be more reflective on whether you're eliciting some higher level responses from students. Work. We're looking for minds at work, aren't we, teachers? All right, let's let the Schuyler sisters tell us. And I just love Eliza in this clip because she's such a middle sister, right? She doesn't quite know what she's looking for, but she's not going to be the baby like Peggy. She's kind of all in with Angelica. And then notice Angelica, she's got some fierce teacher look going on in this clip.
Uh-oh, but little does he know that his daughter's Peggy Angelica Eliza sneaks into the city just to watch other guys.
Angelica, Eliza, Angelica, Eliza. Daddy said to be home by sundown. Daddy doesn't need to know. Daddy said not to go downtown. Like I said, you're free to go. But look around, the revolution's happening in New York. New York.
Angelica,
It's bad enough Daddy wants to go to war. People shouting in the square. It's bad enough there'll be violence on our shore. New ideas in the air. Look around. Angelica, remind me what we're looking for.
she's looking for me.
Eliza, I'm looking for a mind at work. I'm looking for a mind at work. I'm looking for a mind at work. Wow.
Aren't they the best? She has that great teacher look there at the end. So a question for all of you as educators, who's working harder, you or your students? That's a good reflective piece. So anytime you have that song in your head, you can kind of think about that. Who's working harder here? Because of course, we want our students to be the ones in the productive struggle. We want them to be working hard. And I love, this is a much better quote than mine, by the way, from John Wolfe and Rita Platt, that English language development should be an intensive language workout, that kids should leave the class with their ears and tongues and minds ringing. I just worked with a student today, and after 20 minutes, she sat down and said, I am so tired. And I thought, yeah, we've got a mind at work. Awesome. So one way that helps me to really think about where this language workout fits in the progression of language development is to think about activating prior knowledge, connecting to core content and vocabulary work that happens at the beginning. So all of that receptive language, and then moving that to a literacy base with some reading. And after that, after you've built that intentional receptive language, then it's time for the language workout, where students are going to be working in the domain of speaking. And this is sort of backwards design. It's oral rehearsal if you were taking the task into writing. If not, this is the workout just in itself, for them to really prepare for future years as writers. So thinking about a language workout, we're going to go and do a language workout ourselves. And I have a sort of controversial topic for you. So I know you're all teachers and you're going to be nice about this, but this does get some people's blood boiling a little bit. We're going to practice our language workout with this very question. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Now think about that for a little while. When sixth graders are presented with this question, they get very opinionated on this. And there are some news clips out there where fierce debate happens when we ask, is a hot dog a sandwich? So we're going to try out a language workout ourselves based on this topic and thinking about argumentation and opinion sharing. So for my friends on Nearpod, you can just share with us, what are your initial thoughts? Is a hot dog a sandwich? And you can answer yes or no. If you're not on Nearpod and you want to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, go ahead and do that. You can be undecided as well. Oh, okay. Oh, look at that. We have some differences of opinion already. I love this especially for Illinois because we have some strong opinions about hot dogs. Am I right? Okay. So in this language workout example, I would have our learning target where students would argue their claims effectively using reasons with key vocabulary. So if I'm planning this lesson as a language workout, this is sort of my target that they're going to argue and they're going to use claims, and I want them to use some key vocabulary. So as I'm planning the lesson, I'm going to think about the dimensions of language that WIDA uses for instruction and for assessment. So I'm wondering from you, which dimension of language do you think you spend the most time planning for? Is it the word dimension, the sentence dimension, or discourse? And if you're on Nearpod, you can circle your answer. If not, you can just sort of think about that. Maybe think about some lessons you've planned recently, and if you had students working in one dimension more frequently than others. Okay, so Tracy's saying mostly at the sentence dimension. Ryan's looking at the word dimension. Michelle is agreeing the sentence dimension. And America has discourse. Okay. Sentence for Lauren and Colleen also at the sentence dimension. Planning for a language workout or a speaking activity really takes me the most time in planning any kind of activity. And there's not really a right answer here that I'm looking for. It's just something to reflect on for yourself. In this lesson on claims and arguments about hot dogs, I really tried to plan across all three dimensions, which helped me to sort of unpack what kinds of linguistic support students would need at the different dimensions. So you're going to try this, and some of this vocabulary, especially dough, slices, layers, might be something that's really important for you to be able to argue and to make your claims about whether a hot dog is a sandwich or not. So at the word domain, I planned for students to be able to have pictures and words of some academic language that they might be using to make an effective argument instead of just, it's because I think so. So they can really shape that argument. At the sentence dimension, we have some sentence frames. And the sentence frames are using agreement or disagreement and counter argument. This may be a little bit challenging for our little ones, but for you as teachers, I want you to try to push yourself to use some of these sentence frames to agree and disagree with one another. And the reason why we want to use some of these sentence frames is because this pushes us into some more academic language that we would certainly be using in writing. If we're just going to use our functional language, that's helpful and important. But when we're talking about academic tasks, think backwards from what you want children to write, and then that's what they're going to practice in their language workout. And of course, in the discourse dimension, you're planning for, and I've planned in this lesson for you to do some cooperative groups so that you are working with a partner on claims and reasons, and that you have to agree and disagree with them and make some counter arguments. So here's how this is going to work. We're going to try it. So I would provide students with a visual like this, and this is what you're going to use as well. You're going to have a slide and a series of pictures of different food items. And you have to argue that a certain food item is or is not a sandwich. And then I want your group to either agree or disagree and tell why. So if I had a partner, if I was number one, I would say, I argue that an Oreo is a sandwich because it's called a sandwich cookie right on the label. And partner two might say, I disagree that an Oreo is a sandwich because Oreos are sweet and it's a dessert. It's a cookie. It's not a sandwich. So there's no right answers in this exercise. It's just a chance for you to use this academic language and to get your minds and your mouths ready for words like argue and agree and disagree, and push you to use a more expanded sentence by using the word because. So we're going to send you to breakout rooms. And in your breakout room, you are going to go to the slide that corresponds with your breakout room. So if you're in breakout room number 3, you go to slide number 3, and you'll see the sandwich sort there. And you are to take turns with a partner sorting these different food items and using the sentence frames provided, or speaking in your most academic register about food items, to decide and to maybe argue a little bit about whether these items are or are not sandwiches. We're going to give you 5 minutes to spend with your colleague engaged in that task. And if you have extra time, you can just spend that time getting to know one another a little bit. And if you're not on the Nearpod, I will share this link with you in the chat, or you can take a look at this screen right here and take a look at some of these different sandwiches or non-sandwiches, as it were. So you can have that discussion.
You have been invited to breakout rooms, but you have to accept.
I love those post breakout room smiles. Look at room one. They're so sweet. They didn't disagree at all. So again, this content, it doesn't really matter if you think a quesadilla is a sandwich or not. It's about you using the vocabulary of, dough and filling and some of those sorts of things, and then making an argument and giving your reason or your explanation why. Well, I hope you had fun. You can really extend this and think about whether or not then, after looking at this sort, if you still think a hot dog is a sandwich or not, and make some more claims and reasons after having gone through this exercise. Kids do really love this exercise. And of course, if you were in a classroom, you could do this just with cards, not digitally as we're doing it now. So the next thing I want you to do is to look at a pre-K setting. This happens to be from a Navajo bilingual classroom setting. And this is some oral language development in the pre-K classroom and very intentional uses of oral language to support their thinking, repetition at this age of development. And I think it's just beautiful how they're helping and guiding the kids in different play centers to engage in sort of this language workout. So let's enjoy watching them.
Yes, I'm Bennett and Kyrie.
Oral language skills for children at this preschool age is very important for them to be able to grasp, to be able to express themselves, to be able to understand the words.
You know what's missing is just chips.
We don't have chips.
You don't have
Oh,
chips?
we have chips.
We need to have them understand and comprehend that the words they're saying, and that they use conversation and use their language to communicate in so many different ways.
How are they different?
The big, medium, small.
Good job, Billette. Good job. They're big, medium, and small.
We have some children who come to school with no language at all or very little speech. So we have to give them the support that they need to be able to get there.
How come they call her Goldilocks? What do you think? Gold? What's gold?
No.
Her hair is gold. Yep. Her hair is like gold.
So when teachers ask a question and say, what's happening in this story? They're wanting a complete sentence to come back. Well, she's walking the dog down the road, instead of just saying dog.
Why do you think Goldilocks lives with grandma?
No, her live with her mom.
You think so? Okay, she's saying grandma, you're saying mom.
Me.
Who's right?
Me.
Okay, good job.
We use strategies like dialogic reading, self-talk, which is when the teacher is talking about, I'm just saying what I'm doing all the day long. I am writing down the attendance on the attendance board.
Oh, you're going to be a fire chief. Why?
Parallel talk is another one. When children are playing on the floor with an adult, talking with them, sitting on the floor with them and saying, oh, I see that you're playing with the red truck. You're taking the red truck and moving it down the road. Did you just stop that red truck in front of the stop sign? We're giving the children lots of words there. Red, truck, down the road. And so by doing parallel talk and saying what the child is doing, we're giving them words to go along with the actions. And they're hearing that. And we encourage them to do that with each other.
What did you paint?
A butterfly.
A butterfly. What colors did you use?
Red.
Red, just red? Okay.
With children at this age, repetition is really important. We know from brain research and brain development that children need to do something more than once. And the more that they do it, the more their brains are hardwired for that particular skill.
Octagon? Yeah, octagon.
So there were a lot of things that happened in the circle time today, from some math activities to language development,
Sit down here, right here on 3.
alphabet knowledge activities that we saw, naming letters, shapes.
Triangle.
We saw some Navajo language and so forth. But one of the things that happened during that circle time was the reading of the book, The Three Bears.
Once upon a time, there were 3
And the teacher
bears.
mentioned that this wasn't the first time that the children had read this book.
And the great big bear had a great big chair.
There's a lot of research out there that talks about the more quality words children hear, the more times that they can have conversations and hear language, the better their own vocabulary, the better their reading comprehension.
Aren't they beautiful? I think those teachers, master teachers, make it look so second nature when they're eliciting oral language from kids, and they move so easily between receptive and productive language with children. Lots of open-ended questions there, honoring really students helping one another. So if you need a little more support in creating a language workout or a speaking activity, I like to create lots and lots of choices for myself so that I have lots of options to use with kids. And I usually look at and remind myself that when it's time for a language workout or a speaking activity, that I want there to be 20% teacher talk and 80% student talk. So I always just note that on my slide that I've prepared to be able to talk with kids. And I'll just share a few examples of some supports that I've used for language development. So this is asking, answering questions very early in the year about family, and cueing myself as the teacher to add the questions at the end and be able to really ask some questions of students, thinking about open-ended and thinking about the types of questions that I might have for students about an illustration. And again, giving myself lots and lots of choices. If something seems really interesting or students have a lot to say about a particular family scene or something they want to share about themselves, we can spend more time there. And if not, we can move on. So just lots of chances for me to ask some questions about what's happening in the picture and for students to be able to show how they might explain that or connect that to their own family. And then moving into perhaps asking some questions about their own family, seeing if they can share about the people that may be special to them in their family. And another great activity that would be a great language workout is for them to go around the school and or around their class and take a little survey with some help. Can I ask you a question? How many people are in your family? And then they could mark how many people are in their family. So that gives them sort of a real task to be able to investigate and find that kind of information about their classmates. I like to have some linguistic supports and visual supports for language learners when you're talking. This is about same and different friends. So you can prompt them visually with, this shows different hair types and colors, different eyes, so that they can elicit that language and support them to be able to express more. Here's another example of a language workout, which is a song where they're singing about things they can do, and perhaps acting out those actions. This is again that repetition of the sentence, I can dance, yes I can. And again, giving lots of choices if students, and really over preparing for a language workout sort of time with students. So I have, 19 different slides here with different actions. And then again, the song that you could sing again and again, a simple song for them, but repetition of language. Doing a sort like we did with the hot dog activity is a great way to build oral language and for them to be able to express some ideas. These are pictures of friends, and they could look closely at the pictures and decide if in the picture is representing someone that's a good friend or not a good friend, and then maybe why. For example, the child here is biting the other child on the arm. So asking students to express, what do you think? Do you think this is an example of a good friend or not a good friend? And can you explain why? And then this is a very structured example from kindergarten about using weather to or using complete sentences to describe the weather. Sentence frames are really helpful for me as the teacher and for the students. And of course, you can gradually release and model how they would form their sentences completely here. And even though you have these structures in place, if they go off script and they want to tell you about a time when it was rainy, or tell you a story, that's certainly allowed and encouraged. But these sentence frames are really a way for you to support those students who are maybe at the word or phrase level to stretch themselves a bit more. And again, I really think it's great to have a lot of visuals and kind of over plan. And this of course would be a great activity with actual cards now that we're in person, hooray. And again, going from simple questions to more complex questions. You should wear such and such in this weather because. Sort of adding some connective phrases there. How do your clothes change with the weather, and so forth. So lots and lots of different prompts to be able to ask children and to really think about their responses. Okay, we're on to our third topic, which is Back to Aaron Burr. And this is, of course, the most beautiful song in Hamilton. Wait for it. So I'm going to show you what I think is a super cool way for us as educators. This is like a tech thing to transform speaking into writing. So hang on, just wait for it.
Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. I am the one thing in life I can control. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. I am inimitable, I am an original. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. I'm not falling behind or running late. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. I'm not standing still, I am lying in wait. Wait, wait, wait. Hamilton faces an endless uphill climb. Climb, climb, climb. He has something to prove, he has nothing to lose. Lose. Hamilton faces relentless, he wastes no time. Time. What is it like in his shoes? Life is indiscriminate.
Oh, takes my breath away. So beautiful. Well, this is an example of a third grader's personal narrative. This happens to be from third grade, but you can take a look at this narrative. This student has quite a few great things going on, some transitional words. She's really telling the story in order with a lot of details. She has some subject-verb agreement that she's working on, but she was really able to form a complete story and remember a lot of parts of her birthday. So what if I told you that this beautifully crafted personal narrative was actually just an example of her oral language? So this student happened to record this story of hers on Flipgrid. So all of this was her oral language. She didn't actually write this story at all, but she composed it all orally. And there's a really cool way if you use Flipgrid to record students' oral responses for you as the teacher or for students themselves to take that right to text. So I'm going to show you that right now. Sorry, this is some kind of inception because I'm playing a video of myself. There we go.
Hi, I'm going to show you about the immersive reader tool on Flipgrid. So here is your introduction and your directions for your students. They can click on this blue immersive reader icon. It takes the text that you've written and it will do several things with it. One is it will read the text to them.
You have been writing your personal narrative in class.
And they can click on any of these three options at the top. One is text preferences, where they can increase or decrease the text size. They can increase the spacing, change the font, or change it to different themes, like if you needed a black and white. In the grammar options, you can change to enable syllables to be shown. You can highlight different parts of speech. You can highlight all the parts of speech or turn them all off. The reading preferences icon allows you to change the line focus, so you could focus on one line of text or several lines when you're reading. The picture dictionary enabled will help students to hover over a word, and then it gives them a picture and will also read the word to them.
Body. Order.
You can also choose a language. I chose French, and I can translate by word or translate the whole document. Also, the picture dictionary will also work and give you the word in English and in French. So those are some of the features of the immersive reader while you're doing the directions. Also, when your students record their response, they can also take that response and use the immersive reader. So if they go to settings, they can click on immersive reader, and it takes all of their oral response and puts it into text for them. So they can go through and read their response and use all of the features as I showed you earlier. Change the text size, could even copy and paste this and put it in another document that they could edit and change. All the grammar options are there. They can enable which nouns they used and so forth. They can also use a different line focus to be able to read what they said. They can use the picture dictionary, translate the document as well. So I hope that this helps you and that your students will enjoy using Flipgrid and using it to help not only their speaking, but also their reading and writing. Bye.
I thought that was so cool in Flipgrid that you can, use that for sort of dictation from students, so they can give an oral response and then you as the teacher can just copy and paste and you have that in text. So those are the three things that I really want you to think about as you're hoping to talk less and smile more, that we're looking for minds at work. And I hope that you wait for it and can think about utilizing Flipgrid and the immersive reader in ways that can be helpful to you. I have a collaborate board here on Nearpod, and I'll just ask you to share some of your takeaways from our learning today with the group, and I'll keep sharing my screen so you can see what your colleagues have to say. I love that too, Tracy. It's a good metric to have in your head when you're thinking about that. Awesome, thank you. Keep attempting to ask open-ended questions. Yes, put a post-it note somewhere and remind yourself. And self-talk that receptively, students can definitely benefit from that. Awesome. Expand on questioning, right? We don't want them to be in that yes, no response phase forever. We want to push them beyond that. Thank you. Yes, the language workouts. I hope your kids are working really hard to express themselves when it's time for that language workout. Awesome, really being mindful of the questions we're asking. Yes, you can play that little game with yourself, make some tally marks, and you might be surprised by what you find. And definitely planning across all three dimensions really helps your ability to support and to make that language target very explicit. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to leave you with a much better quote than mine, which is from Mother Teresa, that we can do no great things, only small things with great love. And I see that in our schools and with what you're doing with children every day. So please know that all of those small things that you do with great love are so meaningful, and you're planting some beautiful seeds that will flourish in our nation's future. So thank you again for all of your time with us today. My email is here. If you would like to contact me for any reason, I'm happy to communicate with you and talk more about this subject or any other ideas or things you have on your mind. And I know Karen has a few things to wrap up, but I'll stay here too if there are any further questions or just comments, or if you wanted to chat a bit. So thanks again. I really appreciate all of you attending, and thanks for all of the work that you're doing for children every day.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you all for attending. The person that's on Fran's Galaxy Note 20, I don't know who you are, so if you could please type your name in so I can give you credit for attending. Later this evening, you'll all receive an email from me with a recording of this webinar, and it will also contain an evaluation link. Once the evaluation has been completed, you'll receive another email that will contain the link to your ISB certificate that you can download to save electronically and or print it out. This link is valid for 30 days, so if you could do it sooner than later, that would be best. Thank you all for attending, and have a good night.